What is up, everyone? I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by one of my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew's Fine Hour. One of my favorite co-hosts. I can't pick a favorite.
I understand.
But welcome back to
our beloved Theo Ash is out today with food poisoning, which
Insane.
I also had recently. I don't know if that caused me to miss an episode, but I had food poisoning. It did?
Yes, I remember Theo and I recorded. Or was that because of food poisoning, or was that something else where Theo and I had to record?
Dude, I got sick like 3 times. I don't think it was the food poisoning.
Okay.
I missed a date because of the food poisoning.
That's worse, honestly.
Oh, dude, it was so ass because like I got sick like at 3 p.m. and then I was just cooked by 6. I was just crushed. So, and it seemed like he was like, I'm feeling a little bad. I think I have food poisoning, but I'll be better. And then it's like, he texts us like 2 hours later, like, no way. No.
Yeah, I told him, I was like, if you can't make it, like, that's fine. We'll hold down ship. Like, it'll be okay. But welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot, presented by our good friends over at Little Caesars Pizza. We're Stay Hot. They're staying ready with some hot and ready pizza for you all NFL season long. Hope you all had a very Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. You know, not everyone celebrates Christmas, but for those of you that did, hope you had a Merry Christmas. If you celebrate something else, Hanukkah, whatever, I hope you had a great holiday. And this will be our last episode before the new year. So I hope everyone has a very happy new year as well. If you follow Matt on Twitter, you know Matt had a better Christmas than Steph Curry. So,
dude, I tweeted out something like Steph Curry's stats versus my mom's stats from Christmas Day, and my mom did, considerably better. Not surprised. She's a big time performer.
Any longtime Stay Hot listeners know that Matt's parents are the greatest superheroes of all time.
They're the greatest superheroes. They're out there. Actually, I think I had them up 2 on that list. Maybe I don't remember. This was a long time. This is a long. No one's gonna get this. But yeah, I had a great holiday. I got to see my family and ate a bunch of real good food, and it was just a wonderful time. It was just a wonderful time. If you're from the Cincinnati area, I got a big Jungle Gyms gift card that I'm gonna have to go spend, if you know what that is. But how was your Christmas, Blaiden?
It was pretty good. Got some more stuff for my house, which is always kind of fun. My dad got me a drill because he was tired of me always calling him whenever I needed something like drilled.
Practical.
Yeah, practical. He got me a nice DeWalt drill set with some drill bits and some screw bits. So very, very good gift. I haven't gotten to celebrate Christmas with my girlfriend Sophia yet. She's coming in Friday, and we'll celebrate, Friday, and then we'll celebrate the new year together.
I know what you got her, but I'm not going to tell.
Yeah, I realized we talked about this on an episode, and I'm like, there's a very real possibility that she would listen to it and.
Or now you'll know if she's not listening and she just doesn't care about the podcast at all. No, I don't think anybody I know listens to every single episode because they're like, dude, I just hear you say this in real life.
That's what I'm saying, bro.
Anyway, do we want to get into some football? Maybe.
I say
particularly
we should.
some latest news that dropped today. We're kind of recapping games that happened over the Christmas weekend for the most part, but there was some news that dropped today that we wanted to talk about.
Russell Wilson. Oh my God. So I think this is a little bit lame and weak, but I get where they're coming from. So the Broncos have decided they're going to bench Russell Wilson. It looks like the remainder of the season, but I think they're saying
it's the remainder of the season. It's the last 2 games, I think.
Yeah. So Jarrett Stidham's going to be the starting quarterback for these last 2 games, which a bit to me, it's like we're throwing in the towel. Which, like, I get it. You're 7-8. I think they have a 5% chance of making the playoffs at this point. And even if you made the playoffs, you're going to play you'd be the 7 seed. So you're probably either playing Baltimore or Miami.
Yeah.
Probably not winning those games. Like, I understand the logic from an outside perspective.
Well, you realize that they're doing this for cap reasons, right?
Yes. Yeah, I know. Because if Russell Wilson were to get hurt, he would be
so he's got
guaranteed
this.
the money.
It took me like reading the article like 2 times to get it. So he's got this clause in his contract where if he doesn't pass a physical in the middle of March this year in the 2024, like the beginning of the 2024 league calendar or whatever, then he gets a huge amount of guaranteed money for 2025. It's like not a super common clause in a bunch of contracts. So what the Broncos are doing is they're saying, we're pretty much out of it. We're not going to make the playoffs. And even if we did, we probably wouldn't do a lot. And what we don't want to do is play Russ in a couple of meaningless games, and all of a sudden we're on the hook in 2025 for what I think is like 35 or 37
it's a
million
lot.
dollars
It's a lot
guaranteed.
of guaranteed money.
I have mixed feelings about it. I think Stidham is interesting. You know, I remember he's played some solid ball before. I'm sure if I was a Broncos fan, even with a 5% chance, it's like, well, we waited the whole season. You get through the whole offseason process, and then your team kind of gives out in the last stretch, even if it's unlikely. Like, that just sucks. Like, it's just not fun to have years like that. And for a lot of this season, the Broncos have been like, yeah, you know, we're not going to like make the playoffs most likely. We're not going to go on a Super Bowl run, but like, we're a feisty team trying to make the playoffs, and it's like that's beating our expectations. So to just like, you know, punt on that opportunity just sucks. You know, it's like the fans are invested; they care, and I'm sure the guys in the locker room care too.
I think that's even bigger, just from like inside the locker room perspective. I think the fans kind of would get it. Like ultimately, like long term, you would be like, okay, I don't want to be sitting here in like a Brown situation where you're on the hook for 64, where they're on the hook for 64 million, but like in their case it'd be like 35 million, like you said. I get that, but I think from a locker room perspective, if I'm a player, I'd be pretty pissed off because it does feel like you're kind of punting on these last two games.
It definitely does. However, I don't disagree with it.
Yeah,
it would be a disaster if he got hurt. And it would be for, at the end of the day, you're probably going to feel the same way you do, you know, a month from now, you'll feel the same probably no matter what you ended up doing. You probably won't make the playoffs. And even if you did, you'll probably lose round 1.
Right.
And it stinks. But like, I guess it's like you're your team with this major playoff drought, but whatever. I thought it was weird. It's a weird clause. It is a weird, strange situation, but ultimately, when we talk about the Broncos and their future, what do we always bring up? The Russ contract. How are you going to do with the Russ contract? So it's like, if the Broncos are making moves around trying to get off of the Russ contract as soon as possible, I can't disagree. And I know Russ has been like, the stats have not been terrible for him, but I don't think he's been particularly strong this year. I don't think he's like proven that all of a sudden he's your guy for the future or anything. It's been a little bit better. You know, the offense did a lot of play action stuff, a lot of try to just get him out of the pocket and make things easy. And that's worked to an extent. And he's had some games where I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. That looks like some older Russ. But ultimately, like, this thing is going to go down with, we're getting off Russ and we're building from there. And I just can't blame the team for making a move like that. I just can't.
Yeah, I can't. And without Courtland Sutton, the offense was really, really inept. So
who do they play? And what do they need? Do they need like a bunch of help?
I should have ran like the calculation on what
the Chargers and the Raiders. Those are two very winnable games. That pushes them up to 9-8. And then you're sitting with the Texans at 8-7. You got the Steelers at 8-7. You got the Bengals at 8-7. You got the Colts at 8-7. That's 7 through 10 seeding wise. Pretty unlikely, because you would need 3 of those teams, because they can't beat out the Chiefs, can they? Oh, they're 1-1. Maybe they can.
They, in theory, could still win their division. They're not out of it, but
that makes it a little bit more
super unlikely.
You need the Chiefs to go. So you need the Chiefs to go 0-2. You to go 2-0, and I don't know. You're counting on the Chiefs losing to the Herbertless Chargers. I don't know.
That's a big game.
It is a little lame. It is a little lame.
I think the biggest games would be like Patriots at Bills, Titans, Jags. Actually, if the Titans beat the Jags, I don't know if they need the Chiefs to win. I think they would need the Dolphins to then beat the Bills. Oh, then they would need the Chargers to beat the Chiefs. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot that has to happen. And then they need the Bengals. So they need the Chiefs to lose out. And then they need...
Well, if they can win the division, don't they just need... I don't know. It's not that important, I guess. It kind of stinks. I'd be a little mad if I was a Broncos fan and I hadn't been to the playoffs since 2015 or whatever. It's been a minute. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I know they've been thinking about doing it for a while, and this is just kind of when they decided to, because they were sort of going on a run, and they're like, well, we can't do that. We can't bench him now. Although, I don't know.
Well, they were on a run, and then they dropped.
I feel kind of... If I was Russ, I'd feel like, hey, that sucks. Yeah, they were on a run, and then they lost a couple, and they're like, okay, we are doing this.
Yeah. They lost.
If I was Russ, I'd say that's super, super weak, but whatever. He's getting his bag.
I think it's pretty weak. I think it's pretty weak, but I do get it. Yeah. I don't know. Of their last 4 games, they've only beaten the Chargers, right? They lost to Houston, Detroit, and the Patriots recently. And that game was...
losing the Patriots was tough. And they had such a good opportunity. They were in such a good spot. You're closing out the season with Patriots, Chargers, Raiders. I mean, they would have dang near been controlling their own destiny there to win the division. That would have been huge. Just a crusher. But do you want to get into an actual football game?
Yeah, let's recap some of the games from Christmas weekend. I thought it was a lot of pretty good prime football games.
It's like every day I feel like maybe I'm totally off base. Every day had like one really good game, and then it's like some of the other ones. It's like, man,
but that's all we need. You know, that's your one thing that you say that makes college football so great. Is
but that's because 40 games are going on at the same time. This is like I'm sitting around on Christmas Day, twiddling my thumbs, watching whatever games were on that sucked.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I honestly prefer the better game not to happen during prime time. I don't really want to stay up till midnight if I don't have to. So
that's the shitty thing about living in Eastern time.
I always am jealous of West Coast for that.
It is the one benefit, but I also do like that I don't have to wake up at like 4 a.m. for work.
That's true. Well, it wouldn't be 4 a.m. for your time.
This episode of Stay Hot is presented by Prize Picks. I gotta tell you, Prize Picks is the most fun I've had, winning up to 25 times my money this football season. And now I can play during their basketball season too. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. Prize Picks is bringing your gifts early this year with the 12 days of Pickmas as well. Starting December 14th, there will be a new promotion every day. That's right now for new and existing customers. The daily promotions will range from payout boosts to discounted projections. Like the Phoenix Suns' Kevin Durant only needs 1 point on Christmas Day to make you a winner when placing an NBA entry or something like that. So head on over to Prize Picks at prizepicks.com/stayhot and use the code STAYHOT for a first deposit match up to $100. You've heard it before. If you put in 50, they'll put another 50 into your account, and you'll have 100 in there, but you can't put in more than 100. It's up to $100. So that's prizepicks.com/stayhot, and have fun picking.
Anyway, 49ers Ravens is the game we want to talk about. 49ers
yeah, that's
Ravens
the first
is the game
one
we want to talk about.
Lamar Jackson solidified his MVP.
I think the MVP has been so funny this year. Yeah. Lamar Jackson has not solidified the MVP at all.
I guess you're right. I guess he hasn't solidified
it. And here's the thing. If I had a vote and the season ended today, I would vote for Lamar. Absolutely. Yes. Now, this is not me speaking negatively about Lamar, but we are literally coming off of a game where we went in saying, well, this match is for the MVP. These might be 2 of the top guys. And whoever, balls out and whoever doesn't, that's going to be it. Purdy throws 4 interceptions. Lamar plays exceptionally well. And we're saying, now it's Lamar. Dude, next week is Ravens Dolphins. Probably for the number 1 overall seed and possibly for the MVP. I know Tua isn't right there, but if Tua has a huge, crazy game against an amazing Ravens defense and Lamar were to put up a stinker, not saying he will, then I think Lamar would be doomed. Like if Lamar played a bad game, like a really bad game against a Dolphins defense that has been incredibly good recently.
It has been really nice.
Then dude, he could play himself right out. And we spent this whole season saying MVP is this guy right now. And the next week happens. Well, the MVP is obviously this guy. Okay, we've got it. Oh,
Yeah,
well, now it's Purdy. I don't see any way that Purdy can't win it. I'm not saying that everybody else was saying that. I was saying this. And then Purdy goes and throws 4 interceptions. Well, okay, now it's Lamar. It's going to be Lamar. It's not going to change. And this is how we get McCaffrey winning MVP, man. This is how it all comes together.
I didn't realize how close McCaffrey actually is to the touchdown.
Dude,
record.
I don't think he has.
Like,
this isn't even about the game.
He's not going to get it.
He's not going to get it because he's a running back. It's just the narrative has turned too far against running backs.
Yeah,
it just has.
But like he's having a nuts season.
He's having a nuts season. I think with Purdy though, this game was not great.
No,
and a lot of those interceptions were sort of tipped up and caught, and some of them are his fault and some of them weren't. I don't think it was his worst. Like, I don't think it was a total disaster or any. Well, it was a total disaster. I don't think it was like. I'm trying to think of the right way to put this. It probably wasn't as bad as maybe it seems on paper. No.
I don't know, because for every interception that wasn't his fault, there was an interception that he should have
but
thrown.
A couple of it, it's okay, guy jumps a screen, tips it up, intercept. It's right, that's a tough one. Now there was one where he was rolling out and he hit it to Kittle way too late. That was bad. The first one he had where Hamilton jumps it, that was bad.
Yeah.
But I didn't think this was trying to think of the Jake Delhomme in the 2009 playoffs. Going through 5 interceptions against the Cardinals. I don't know. I think they're going to be fine, I guess would be my point. I'm not now they have a quarterback
I'm not worried
problem.
about the 49ers.
It was a very bad Purdy game, but I'm not that worried about them. I just think I just think with the NFL and all the narratives that have been going on this season, it's the second that everybody agrees and starts to think something, the opposite happens. The moment everyone was well, nobody can beat the 49ers. Of course they're going to lose. Of course they're going to go lose. The moment that we say, oh, well, dude, this backup quarterback honestly might not be. And that's the moment that they immediately fall apart.
Yeah.
So
we were literally talking about Jake Browning.
Yeah, dude, Jake Browning. Yeah. Right. Dude, Josh Dobbs got benched for Nick Mullins. It just happens all the time. 49, oh, dude, there you go.
Yeah.
So it's tough. And obviously Trent Williams going down really killed them. The Ravens were really heating things up. Jadeveon Clowney has been really good this year. Also, I have a trivia question for you. I don't mean to interrupt. I'll hit it at the end. I'll hit it at the end. I'll hit it at the end. We'll talk about the game and then I'll hit it at the end.
Okay.
But I think for as much as you have to take away from the 49ers from this performance, I think it's more just a great Ravens game, man.
Yes.
The defense is just well put together. They fly around. They're really smart. Kyle Hamilton, just an absolute beast. Just exactly the type of player that he was built to be, right?
Yeah.
And I think I know his knee was bad. I think it's going to be okay. I honestly probably should have looked at that a little bit closer before we started. But I didn't. I think I heard Harbaugh say it's not like a season ender. Now, maybe he didn't know at the time for sure one way or the other. But if it is, they're in big trouble. They cannot lose him. He is a game breaker. Roquan Smith just nailed that trade.
Yeah.
To be able to go get a guy who's top 5, top 3 at his position, really closer to number 1 than he is to number 5. But just any chance you get a time to go grab a guy who's top 5 at their position. Those teams never seem to look back and say, "Oh, we overpaid." Never happens. Never happens. Tyreek Hill, huge amount they gave up for him. Doesn't matter. You got a game breaker. It's the same thing with Roquan, and their defensive line. Maybe if I had to circle a weak point at the start of the year, I'd say well, they don't have the craziest big names, but it's been playing fantastic, man. I know the 49ers offensive line is probably their weak point. You got to give a lot of credit
to Mike McDonald, I think, just for how he schemes things up there. I mean, they run so many different blitz packages and they have so many different looks. And that's why, you see Kyle Hamilton lined up top a lot when he got that interception, but then, they bring him into the box. I mean, you can just throw do everything, looks. Man. They can throw so many different looks at you because of how many versatile players they have. It's just,
and that's a lot of what it is. It's like he's taking advantage of, the back 7 and the talent that he has there, and saying, it's like, I know they're good. I know they're going to get their job done. And Patrick Queen and Humphrey and whoever else you want to, credit, have all been really, really good this year. And I think the way you have to feel about the Ravens is, this is the year, right? It seems like a pretty common sentiment. I don't disagree. It's like,
it's got
not that this is the year and it's like, oh, well, now that we know they're going to win the Super Bowl, nobody can stop them, because then of course the obvious would happen right away. But like, this has to be the time. It's easy to sit here and say, it's like, well, we're not losing anybody major, but it's like, dude,
right.
You're mostly healthy. You've got a lot of your key players there. Not everybody, but you've been less healthy than this. Plenty. That's
I
for
think
sure.
this is pretty easily the best iteration of the Ravens we've seen.
Oh yeah. Dude, no question.
I mean, defensively, hands down. But I
don't know. The 2019 Ravens were real good. I think that the difference.
Okay, Lamar Jackson has been, I think, a top 5 quarterback. He's been a 5-year starter, like 5 straight years. Since then, they've had a 1,000-yard receiver once.
Who?
Hollywood Brown in 2021. He had 1,008 yards.
Yeah. I think it's just like, you're going to have some brain drain. You know that things are only probably going to get tougher with Lamar's contract. It's tough to keep everybody in the building. And it's like, you're just clicking and firing on all cylinders. It's like, and the AFC is wide open. Who knows if the Chiefs are going to be like they are right now for forever. Right. And I think there's other like serious contenders in the AFC who win the Super Bowl, but it's like, you could totally do it this year. So that's my thought. And then with Lamar, it's like the way he's changed his play style so much. So where he has found the perfect balance of using his legs as a
Theo
threat.
Talks about recently is balance.
Well, it's true. It's perfectly balanced. He still uses his legs. He still runs enough to threaten the defense, but just as much or way more than he was in, like 2019 when he won the MVP back then. He's using it just as much to extend plays and look downfield. And that's always probably been, maybe not always, because again, like I said, he wasn't doing it as much in 2019, but that's always been the disconnect with people who like are low on Lamar and people who are high. It's like, he does do that stuff. He doesn't just do it just to run. He's not just going panic mode. He really, you can tell he prefers not to run and only pulls it out when that's what the defense is giving him. And it makes teams just stress. Like, he's doing it just enough to make teams stress themselves out about keeping their gap integrity and not letting teams tee off on him. Because by all means, the 49ers should have been able, with their defensive line, should have been able to just go tee off on anybody. But it's really, really tough when you got to worry about Lamar getting out of there.
And here, even if you hold gap integrity to an extent, the problem with Lamar is that he can just break you anyway.
Yeah, and he just has
so hard to deal with. I mean, there's a play where he's rolling to his right, and this is like a 40-yard pass to Gus Edwards, but it looks just like a check down, and everything's kind of boxed up. He doesn't really have a rushing lane. No one's really open, but because of the threat that he has to just tuck it, and everyone knows that he still has this burst, he just doesn't use it. But when he needs to, he can hit that second gear and get to the first down mark if he needs to. Guy comes off of Gus Edwards, and Lamar, as soon as that happens, Lamar just flick, and it's a 40-yard catch and run.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of the reason why his numbers don't represent how good he actually has been this year, like just the pure counting stats, is because of that, and probably because he also doesn't have the craziest weapons in the world, which doesn't help with putting up huge numbers.
Right.
And also, with that, and then Gus Edwards taking every 1-yard touchdown, you combine those things, and like maybe the numbers don't look really crazy, but this guy winning MVP would not be a problem at all. How he makes defenses play you is one of the best, superpowers any offense has in the entire NFL.
I didn't realize that he's like, what is it, 19-1 against NFC teams in his career?
Yeah, it's something ridiculous. I saw people making the point like, oh, well, they haven't seen him a bunch. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's why.
Maybe.
It's pretty impressive, man.
He's hard to game plan. He's hard to game plan for if you have seen him.
Yeah.
So I can imagine if you haven't seen him a lot, it's got to be brutal to deal with. I do want to see how many touchdowns does Gus Edwards has 12 touchdowns this year. That is nasty, bro.
Yeah, it's who was it last year?
Nasty.
Why can't I think of the name? Lions. Williams had a bunch of touchdowns.
Oh, Jamal Williams?
Jamal Williams, right. I kept wanting to say Jameson. Yeah, it's kind of almost a similar thing like that, really. Yeah. There's always one dude just randomly doing that. No Gus Edwards hate intended. But yeah, that's kind of my takeaways from the game. I think the Ravens are pretty darn good. I think their defense is great. Lamar's, an MVP level guy, if not actually the MVP. I'd vote for him now. Their weapons are even with guys, being kind of banged up sometimes. Their weapons have more juice than they have in the past.
Yes.
Likely's been really strong and all that. Yeah. And for the 49ers, I'm not that worried. It was pretty much, a lot of things going wrong for them, but they're certainly not unbeatable. And they do have weaknesses. And part of that's Purdy and part of that's the offensive line, especially if Trent Williams isn't good to go like very soon. They really need him back.
Yeah.
All that being said,
that was the Niners' problem last year too, is they just got hurt. They got to stay healthy.
Got to stay healthy. All that being said, my trivia question for you.
Okay.
And everybody, I want you to guess a number at home too. Jadeveon Clowney has had a very weird career. I mean, he's like second team All-Pro back in Houston. He's been on a trillion different teams. Now he's having a resurgence. How many career sacks does he have, do you think?
Are you going to give me options or do I have to guess?
No options. And 10 seconds. Just pick a number.
Okay. I feel like it's higher than I think. I know he didn't have a lot in Cleveland. I will say, how many years has he been in the league?
I think 10.
Jesus.
Or 9.
Yeah, I think this is year 10 because he was drafted in 14. I will say 70.
He's had 51.
Oh, I was gonna say 50, and I was 50. Like, well, 10 years.
He's always been like more of like a run defend type dude.
Yeah, well, yeah, he was drafted as a run defender.
Well, he was drafted as a total psycho.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but yeah, he was always best.
He was so good. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. It's like it's a tough guy to pick because he's had just such a bizarre career.
Yeah, I know he didn't have a lot of sacks that final year in Cleveland. I think he only had 1 sack.
There's a couple of years where he posted like straight up goose eggs, and I think he's sitting on 8.5 right now or something. Yeah, he's at a very solid.
I gotta give him. We gave him a lot of crap for like, oh, I'm gonna bet on myself, take these 1-year prove it deals. I think it's paid off a little bit this year. We'll see if he gets.
That's the thing with him. It's like he kept taking these 1-year prove it deals. He kept betting on himself, and he finally won.
Yeah,
keep gambling. Eventually, you'll win. That's how it's gone. So I'm sure his $120 million contract is right around the corner.
Me opening up a sports book right now to
shout out South Carolina legend.
Steph Curry makes you believe that you can do anything. I mean, look at me. He has me believing that I can shoot threes when I play pickup basketball. And the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce, grip, and stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up and showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock your favorite player and rep his shoes on and off the court. The Curry 11s are perfect for both the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet, locked in no matter what you do on the court. Stop in your tracks with dual density UA flow cushioning and traction, an emergency brake that you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspiration from the wonders of a positive and modernized future on and off the court. Take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. The Curry 11 Future Curry is available now at currybrand.com.
What's the next game we want to talk about, though?
Next game, we could talk about one. we're just talking about Lamar, we could talk about another big time quarterback, Mahomes. What's going wrong
Mahomes
in
and the Chiefs
Kansas City?
lose to the Oakland Raiders, who did not complete a pass in the last 3 quarters. Is that the stat? Or in 3 of the quarters they didn't complete a pass?
Aiden O'Connell was 9 for 21, 62 yards.
He had like 10 straight incompletions. I think that was like a franchise record, which I was kind of surprised to hear.
Yeah.
I could be wrong about all of those or slightly off about every one. But it was an ugly one. And it just comes down to like, dude, I'll be real with you. I was like, well, the Chiefs will figure it out. Mahomes will figure it out. Maybe they won't. Maybe they're not going to figure it out because as they're closing the season, it's time to, pick it up and get into high gear. They're just totally not. The receiver talent is so bad. It's so bad. It's
and
not.
Yet they're going to have a 1,000-yard receiver. Well, it won't be a wide receiver. It'll be Kelsey, but
it'll be Kelsey, who himself has slowed down, and I hate to say it. And it sucks because of the whole Taylor Swift thing, and it's just one of those situations where it's like people are, trying to be funny about that. That's not funny. Don't joke about him. And then it's like he's just getting older, but now all the pressure's on him, like maybe more than ever. And it's like, sometimes it just happens. It's a bad time for him not to be in his prime.
We had this conversation yesterday about how if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. I saw people saying, well, Mahomes was able to win a Super Bowl last year with this group. Well, you can't just, everyone else is trying to get better. You can't just run it back.
Well, it's a few things. Juju was really good for him last year.
Juju was a plus.
While he's, he wasn't last year like, oh, well, this is a number 1 receiver or anything. There's a gap between what they're running out now and what they had last year. With Kelsey a year younger, it was different.
Yeah.
It was.
Kelsey was
and
really
even then,
Kelsey,
the receivers
was
were a problem for him. They just won
Kelsey
inside
was
of it.
a fringe offensive player of the year candidate last year.
I think he got some stray votes. He was fantastic. And he's just not quite. He's just not. The athleticism is starting to wane a little bit. He's still very, very good. And again, if he wasn't in such a position where it's like, please have 1,500 yards or else, then we probably wouldn't be talking. We probably wouldn't be talking like this.
Right.
But it's so sad because it turns into, with a Chiefs team that is just not consistent running the ball whatsoever. They just aren't. And a Pacheco who's banged up, and this is something we should be talking about more. A Pacheco who's banged up, who does not have good running backs behind him. And teams can have problems at running back in a way that I think people sort of have moved away from because of the whole running backs don't matter thing. It's easy to get running backs in later rounds, and there's a lot of them, and you can cycle through them pretty quickly. But that does not mean that having backs who are negatives doesn't matter. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, just not a strong option.
Same. I mean, we talk about the same problem with Philly too. It's like, you run out there with Swift and Gainwell in Boston. Scott's like, maybe give Rashad Penny some touches. Like, I know that.
I think Swift had a good game, so I think we're not allowed to say.
Yeah, fair enough.
That.
Yeah, I won't.
We're not allowed to say that. We will get in big trouble. And Theo's not here to talk about it, so we won't even say anything about that.
Right.
But it's just tough because it's turned their offense into, Mahomes just running for his life every play all the time. Probably maybe a little bit too much at times. Probably trying to make things happen a little bit more. I also think part of their problem is him and the receivers are just not on the same sort of you know how if Mahomes is improvising, Kelsey knows what to do. He knows where to be.
Yep.
The new receivers just don't as much. And on top of that you have
Rashee
obviously
Rice has had a pretty solid season, but he doesn't have the same just intellectual.
He's not a vet. He's a rookie.
Yeah, he's not linked
this
up
is his
with,
first year with Mahomes. And it's been brutal. And then the tackle play is also
my God,
not good enough. Not good enough at all.
It's real bad. It's bad.
So it's just been that mix. And that's why you'll see stuff where Mahomes is scrambling out, and then he had that one almost interception that hit the ground where I forget which receiver it was, but the receiver didn't keep running because he thought he was too close to the sideline, and Mahomes thought he could throw it, and that could have easily been a pick. It's just tough to watch. They just don't have a lot to lean on other than Mahomes make something happen. And some games it goes better than others, but it's just been a really ugly style of football, which sucks because, it should be, one of the best styles of football. It should be awesome to watch. It just hasn't been.
Yeah. Without that chemistry between some of the other receivers and without Kelce just being a premier guy, like you said, like the standard for Kelce is really high. So like he's still good.
He's still very very good. He's still very good.
But when you're holding him to the standard of like a top 10 receiver as a tight end, it's ridiculous.
It's just been a little tough, and it's just tough to create things with what they've got. And he hasn't really had somebody super elite since Tyreek left at receiver. No. And I've said this a million times, but it's not from a lack of trying. They've put in the work to try to get receivers. Rice, Moore, Tony. Yep. None of them have. Rice is having a solid rookie season.
No, right, but he's not Tyreek.
He's not Tyreek. He's not a real number one. And with the Chiefs sitting here with, I'm assuming their game plan cannot be go trade for an established guy. Because I'm not sure who that would be. A lot of teams when they have receiver trouble, it's like, we're going to go trade for AJ Brown. We're going to go trade for Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
I don't think giving up picks for a guy you have to pay is in the wheelhouse of a team this far into their sort of contender build. Maybe it is. Maybe they could restructure a trillion contract.
I think I saw someone, I think it was Gab, interviewed Terrell Owens, and he said, Andy Reid, call me.
Yeah, that'll
save it.
He could get some reps on the Chiefs, man.
He might. And he said he's ready. He said he's always ready.
Okay, well, if he says he's ready, get him out there.
I believe him.
But I just think they're going to have to go back to the well, and it's frustrating because you've spent so much time drafting these, but it's like you just have to draft more.
You have
to do it. You cannot just be like, well, this is what we did. It's not
even that they would necessarily need another receiver if they had more if they had like better running backs, right? It was like
I think it would probably be not as bad. They probably wouldn't have lost to Oakland if they could. Not Oakland.
Yes,
Vegas.
They wouldn't have lost to the Raiders
if they could run the ball. But when they can, it's so much of Mahomes, and it's just brutal to watch. It's like people are drawing the comps to the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, and rightfully so, dude. It's brutal. Yeah. So I do feel bad for Mahomes. You see some people sort of being like, Mahomes, blah, 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 Mahomes, what is happening? It's like,
well, it doesn't help that the Mahomes glazing stuff is going on at the same time.
This is terrible timing. I wish he was having an MVP season so we could really, really start to drive that stuff home. But soon enough, Mahomes, soon enough we will.
Yeah.
So I think their weaknesses are probably too big even for Mahomes to overcome. And it's easy to say. It's like, it's like you sit there and you say like, oh, well, you can't count out Mahomes and Andy Reid. And that's fair. I don't think anybody would be wrong for saying that. But there comes a point where it is a team game. And I think back, there's plenty of examples of times where people will be like, well, you can't count out this guy. And then it's like they're great, but it's not enough. It's not going to work. It is a team sport.
I just don't think it's their year. And like we talk about, like the AFC is wide open. It is. But for as dysfunctional as the Chiefs offense has been this year, if they're going into the playoffs and they're going to have to play through Buffalo, who's been hot recently, and they already lost to.
Part of the real reason why the AFC is wide open is because the Bills are hurt and because the Chiefs are not as good as they were last year.
Yeah, right.
It's like, the AFC, the NFC is wide open too for the Carolina Panthers or whoever. But like, dude, maybe it's wide open. You're the easy part, So it's
right.
Not that the Chiefs are the Carolina Panthers.
It's you. You're the problem.
Yeah, it's you. So
yeah, I mean, they're gonna have to go up into the playoffs, and they're gonna have to deal with Baltimore and Miami and Cleveland's defense. It's just
and those are three really strong defenses. And is there a real world? There's a real world where they could have to, like a hypothetical Super Bowl run would be through those three teams. Possibly, right? They could possibly be the 4 seed in the Browns.
Yeah, they could be the 4 seed, and they would have to go through Browns, and then Yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be
and then
Browns,
like Miami or Baltimore, and then very hypothetical. I think it'd just be really, really tough to go on a run unless somebody really steps up. Don't count them out. Don't clip this if they go and win the Super Bowl. Don't put this at the start of an edit. However, yeah, it's
Patrick Mahomes is done.
Yeah, maybe I should give some like sort of like
we'll
show.
Start yelling, and then someone can clip this, and we'll get 1 million views, and we'll get 100 hate comments,
and it's like Mahomes. It's killer because Mahomes can get it done without crazy weapons, but there is just a limit. There's just a limit on how bad the offense can be.
Yeah, and they just didn't improve from last year, and they needed to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think that's totally fair.
But hey, the Raiders are 7-8. They have a shot at the playoffs still.
They've been playing a lot tougher. You know, this happens almost every year. It was the Panthers and Wilkes last year, where it's like they're just playing tough, and they ran the ball well, and shout out to them. I don't have as much to say about them.
Was it Zamir White? Is that who it is?
Yeah. I think he had like 150 yards.
Shout out, man.
Shout out to him. I don't have as much to say about them, but
no.
Them looking, they've at least been more fun to watch, even if they probably aren't going to go and make the play. I don't know. Are they eliminated? They're 7-8. They're probably not.
Yeah, they're 7-8. They're above Denver right now. So,
hey. Yeah, they play Colts in Denver. I guess if they got like a ton of help.
the Colts are the 7th seed right now. I mean, they're the team to kind of beat.
Well, would they hypothetically? The Chiefs are what, 9-6. Hypothetically, if the Chiefs lost out, would they have any chance? I don't know.
If the Broncos have a 1% chance at the AFC West.
But I don't know if the tiebreakers would work in their favor. I know it goes to division record after that, right?
Let's see.
And that hypothetically, if they were to win out, they would be what, 4-2 in the division with 1 loss to the Chiefs and 1 loss to the Chargers.
The Raiders have a 15% chance at the playoffs, 1% chance at the division.
Okay, so they can still
win out.
What are the Chiefs in their division? Hypothetically, if they were to lose out, which is what you would need to happen. That means they'd have a loss to the Chargers, a loss to the Raiders, and a loss to the Broncos. Yeah, that's the Raiders totally could win the division.
Yeah.
Not going to happen, probably. You'd need the Chargers to go and beat the Chiefs, which
never say never, man.
Would be tough. Shout out to them. Do you want to move to the next game?
Make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL part of your game day. Order online during our Pizza pregame 1 hour before and 3 hours after NFL kickoffs, plus all day Sunday. And get ready for some football and some fun. Choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. Either way, you win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends and enjoy a few slices during the game. Fins Cowboys?
Certainly.
All right, man.
I think I want to start off by saying this is a very good Dak game.
It is.
Good Lord, he was running for his life. He's running for his life this game. The tackle play
Dak's
was
the
garbage.
new Herbert, not his fault.
Not his fault. Well, I think Dak has had some games where I didn't think he played the absolute best.
True.
Not that I'm low on Dak. I'm not a Dak hater. But this certainly was not one. The tackle play was just atrocious. Just totally missing guys, missing blocks. You know, like there was one, and I forget who it was, which tackle it was, so forgive me, where he goes in to help on a guard and then or a defensive tackle, and then an edge rusher just comes totally free, and it's like, dude, there's just not a lot you can do in that situation. And Dak is not like helpless. You know, he's got like. Nobody's got perfect weapons, but Dak has pretty good weapons. And CD has just been ridiculous this year.
CD's great.
Just ridiculous this year. Nobody can stop him at the moment. But I thought, considering everything that Dak was up against pressure-wise, he played really, really well. That throw to Cooks that ended up being a touchdown was just money. Filthy. It was just cash, man. It was.
Yeah.
So I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. My takeaways, this Dolphins defense is just really good. They're just really, really good. And the edge rusher, Bradley Chubb has been so much better this year. That was starting to look like, maybe maybe we screwed up for a second. It was early. It would have been early to call that, but it started to look like for a second he's been nasty.
They needed that to pan out.
Yeah, absolutely. They needed that to pan out. And then the Ramsey pickup has been, he since they got him back, they've been just a totally different defense. They got a lot of players at a lot of positions, and I think from like this game standpoint, I think what really sunk the Cowboys, because I thought the Dolphins offense played pretty good, all things considered. It was only 22 points, but I thought they played pretty good. It's like Tua got the ball out so quick. I think it was the quickest time to throw of any quarterback this week. I mean, obviously, he's very quick.
He almost always has the quickest time to throw. I mean,
but it's tough because the Cowboys, if someone's getting the ball out quick and they can't win on the defensive line and their pass rush doesn't have time to get home because they get the ball out so quick, it's a lot of space for corners who have been up and down this year. And they have guys who, they have a bunch of those safety hybrids that they want to be able to like put in coverage and whatnot. But against the weapons that the Dolphins have and McDaniels and everything that he can scheme up, it's just tough. But really, the star of the show is the Dolphins defense. However, I will say this. Dolphins, under the radar right now. Very under the radar. I think so, dude. I think they are. They are like, nobody is like saying that they're bad, but they are probably not quite talked about as like one of the upper echelon contenders as they probably should. I think they absolutely.
I don't think that they are. No,
I don't think that they are. I don't think that they are.
You don't think they're an upper echelon contender? 49ers and
Ravens this week. Maybe that's just because they played. And this will obviously change if they go and beat the Ravens.
I guess they're not. But do you think they're one of those upper echelon contenders?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you. I guess I don't know if it's. I guess I haven't thought if it's been talked about.
I don't know. I think they're just a little under the radar. I just don't see any maybe this is just totally like what I'm seeing biased towards my Twitter timeline. I just don't see as much talk about them. And I think part of the reason is that the defense really stepped up. And part of the reason is that they kind of lost a lot of their big games this season. But they're a different team now than they were at the start of the year. I think that's undeniable. Yeah. And they're well coached. And they've got the big time playmakers. And Tua's having a very good season. And I don't think there's anybody that they necessarily could not beat. If I had to pick...
I don't disagree.
Okay, let me ask you this. With how they're playing right now, Dolphins or Eagles? As a contender,
I might lean Miami.
I might lean Miami too. It's close. A
Dolphins Ravens AFC Championship to me feels like super likely.
Which is now that has been uttered, it will not happen. As this NFL season has gone. But I don't disagree.
And that's fine by me.
Browns fan here thinks it's okay if the Browns not being in the AFC Championship doesn't happen. Fair enough. Yeah, man, I don't know. I think they're just a little bit under the radar. And here's the problem. If they go and beat the Ravens, then they won't be. And if they go and get beat by the Ravens, then I'll just end up being wrong,
So here's what's going to happen, right? If the Dolphins beat the Ravens, so whoever loses that game is going to the AFC Championship. Whoever wins that game is
blowing it in the divisional.
Yeah, they're getting bounced. Yeah.
I don't hate that. It really has been bizarre. It really has been bizarre this year. So that was sort of my takeaways. And the Cowboys are pretty much, we've talked about them so much. I don't want to go on and on and on.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question about the Cowboys. Do you think they regret moving on from Zeke?
No. Look, I agree that Pollard has been banged up, but I don't think Zeke was a solution. I think they needed a running back to get in there. And Pollard, I don't want to say banged. He hasn't been himself since that injury. It's not been as good as it was last year. It hasn't been. And the run game has not been as good. And that's also made it very tough. And we've been saying about many teams. And that's part of the reason why when we look at the two top contenders, it's the Ravens, whose run game is also very good. It's the 49ers, whose run game is also very good. You have to be complete. You have to be able to do a little bit of everything. Because if you can't, defenses are going to figure that out and they're going to be able to adjust towards you. You have to have the counters. It's just like in any sport, basketball. It's like if you can't go one way, if you can't do one thing, defense is going to be able to counter that. Football is the same stuff. But I think that brings us we have one more game we want to talk about.
Do we only have one more?
I think we just have one more.
So is it just the
I'm
Browns
surprised that you saved it for last. This is a shocking not talking about the Browns' performance.
Okay. So I'm looking at like the ESPN like scoreboard, and I was just because we started with Ravens Niners, so I was just working up. Okay. And the Browns game was the first game on Sunday. Okay. So that's the last.
So it wasn't any.
No, it wasn't
any sort of trying to hold back from you. It was just
no. That's just how it played out.
And before anybody says like, oh, the Browns, like we've talked about the Browns, they are having like one of the most interesting seasons of the year.
Oh, they absolutely
are. They are having maybe the most interesting season of the year outside of like the 1A contenders.
They have more players on IR than any other team in the league. They are currently sitting at 10-5.
Right.
Almost
with a quarterback who they called up off the couch, man.
Yeah, off the couch.
It is ridiculous stuff.
And the fourth quarterback of the season.
Yeah.
No Nick Chubb.
And it's like they've got guys on IR. They've got like key guys on IR. They've got like the guys on IR. And
it's rough.
My thought process about them is like, dude, if they were healthy, if they just had, Chubb and the tackles, like if they were healthy, man, they'd be a real threat to go to the Super Bowl. They would be, because that defense and that defensive line is just insane.
Yeah, and Garrett's been playing banged up too.
Yeah,
which has probably knocked him out of the Defensive Player of the Year race. Sadly,
so what would you say? What would make you happy as an end of this Brown season? Do you feel like it could really end with a big Super Bowl run behind Flacco?
I don't know, man. We talk about all these backup quarterbacks and like their Linsanity runs have to come to an end at some point.
Linsanity runs have to come to an end the second that everybody agrees that they're actually not that bad. Joe Flacco going up against the Jets defense next week with everybody agreeing that he's actually not that bad. But it's a revenge
game.
It's a revenge game.
Here's the thing. I want to go to that game. But it's going to be a rainy mess, and there is a possibility that
it's going to rain.
Stink. Yeah.
Oh, dude. It's not I don't know. Here's the thing. Here's what's made them so good with Flacco, or at least allowed them to win games, is that everybody's joking about him like being a gunslinger and just throwing that up.
Yeah.
But it's like true. That is what it is. And it's not been perfect. He's tried to fit the ball in the windows that are just like not going to be there for you, man.
No.
Or he's made just bad decisions before, but what he will do is give the offense a chance to create explosives. And if that comes with turnovers, that is far superior to just like trying not to turn the ball over and playing scared and dumping it off. You're just not really going to win a bunch of games like that. You're putting a very low ceiling on the offense.
I got there was a lot of talk early, a lot of criticism from Stefanski. It's like, why doesn't he run the ball more? Why are we throwing the ball 40 times a game? This is why. Because you would rather live with the boomer bust potential knowing you're not going to be an efficient running team. You're just not. Ford's been fine. Kareem Hunt has been fine. But you're just not going to be a down-to-down efficient running team the same way you are when you have Chubb and when your offensive line is fully healthy. Yep. So what we're gonna live by is, you know what? Let's just see. Can we create some explosives through the air?
And if we can't, and we turn it over sometimes, defense.
Yeah,
I think you got us. Yeah. That's how you got to live. Absolutely. It's the other way around than the average mindset, which would be like, well, our defense is so good, we just don't want to turn it over and put them in a bad position. It's like, test the defense. Give yourself a chance on offense. Also helps when Amari Cooper has 260 yards or whatever he had.
They should have let him get the record.
Some of those catches were ridiculous. Some of those throws were really strong too. He had one on an out to him that was just money. He had a couple more. There were the one where Flacco was like getting tackled and put it up there, and he just came down with it,
falling down and just.
Flacco is also pretty good at he's pretty experienced. Like the pressure isn't totally rattling.
I
him
think
like
that's
it does
the biggest
for a lot of the
thing.
other. That's another big thing where it's like a guy like DTR who's a rookie, picked fifth round, only thrown in there a few games, put him against a tough defense. Like you're gonna have more of that, a lot of panicking.
Yep.
Flacco, the arm isn't quite what it used to be, and he's obviously a little bit older, but he's given him a chance. I don't know how long of a run they could go on, because I'm figuring at some point you'll have a game where it's just more turnovers than big time explosive plays. Like, you're basically rolling the dice a bunch, and it's good to roll the dice. It's gotten you a lot of wins this year. Granted, there's been some one score, nice, 49ers miss a field goal, so on.
Sometimes better to be lucky than good. You need the break sometimes.
But you put them in the playoffs, any given game, they're scary. They are. It would not be a fun first round matchup. And I think if they stay at the 5 seed and they play an AFC South team, they'll be in a very good position.
So that's the conversation. So right now the Browns have, not only are they at like a 99% chance to make the playoffs, they have a reasonable shot at the division and a somewhat feasible chance at the 1 seed. You need the Ravens to lose
2 weeks in a row. It can happen. They play the Dolphins.
The Ravens could lose out. The Ravens could lose out, and then you would need the Dolphins to lose a game in order to get the 1 seed. So you would need, I think it's,
so you would need an exact set. Week. You would need Dolphins win and then Dolphins lose, and then I'm not even worried about that. Like, if you aren't going to get the 1 seed, I'm not even worried about the division. So that's I think an AFC South matchup. Like, just worry about that. Just take that. I would
rather play a Jags 4 seed or even a Chiefs 4 seed if they fall to there, than like move up to like the 2 or 3 and then have to play like Buffalo, because Buffalo's been playing, I think, a lot better recently. They might scare me a little bit as far as,
I'd really rather play the AFC South team than the Chiefs or the Bills. I feel you on the Chiefs. I get that to some extent, but I wouldn't really want to be like, yay, Patrick Mahomes is my.
Well, I get that.
We just spent all this time talking about like, well, you can't just say, well, Mahomes will figure it out, but he could for one game. They're going to clip that.
They're going to clip that, and I'm going to be the Chiefs hater now, because I'd say I'd rather play the Chiefs and the Bills.
And the Jaguars have not been what we expected, and the Colts and the Texans are still right there. I think both of those are pretty nice matchups, even if they are on the road. So, yeah, I think Cleveland's defense has been amazing. I think Flacco has been very, very serviceable and given him a real chance. And if he wants to throw it to Njoku 15 times a game or whatever the hell he's doing, go for it, man. I'd so much, and it's just more fun to watch. I think that's what everybody really loves about Flacco. It's just more fun to watch, because how many backup quarterbacks have we had to watch where they just dump it down and it just ruins the team's season? And it's like, okay, well, which 6 teams are unwatchable right now because they're in backup hell? That sucks, man. It's terrible, man. I hate it. Flacco, maybe he's a backup. Maybe it limits what the Browns can be, but he's been playing some of the best ball that the Browns quarterbacks played in a little while here, and I'd love to see him do it.
Do you think? Okay, this was the big question. Joe Thomas asked this: if Flacco wins a Super Bowl for the Browns, does he go into the Hall of Fame? Not first ballot, just does he make it?
Does he, like, would they vote him in? Or do I think that he should?
Or we'll say both. Do you think he would get in?
I'd have to see it. I'd have to see it. If he, like, just randomly balls out during a playoff run and they win because it's like Joe Flacco was playing so good, dude, he might. I don't know how many Pro Bowls he has to his name.
None.
None. Oh, then no, dude. I'm afraid not. I thought he was like maybe like a 4 or 5 time Pro Bowl guy. Man, I'm totally okay. Well, then the answer is probably no. Was Nick Foles 1 Super Bowl away from being a Hall of? I guess Flacco and Nick Foles, even if the Pro Bowl.
I don't think Nick Foles
Foles has a Pro Bowl.
Foles has a Pro Bowl.
Foles was nice 1 year for the Eagles.
He was. That 2017 season, he came in for Wentz and they won it. That's the thing.
No, he was nice for the Eagles before that.
Oh,
he had a nice full season. You don't remember that? Yeah, that was a long time ago. I was 12, and then I drafted him in fantasy the next year, and he was horrible, man. I remember this. Yeah. I remember this very, very, very well.
He was, it was 2013. He went through 27 touchdowns and 2 picks.
27 touchdowns, 2 picks. He was nice. No, I don't think Flacco would be. I don't know why I thought. Maybe it's just because of all the conversation about him being elite.
It's just because Flacco has that one playoff run.
He does.
And it's like it's up there with Foles. It's like Foles and Flacco have like two of the best playoff performances by any quarterback ever. But yeah, he doesn't have a Pro Bowl. He never really had like that great of a season.
No, he didn't. Wow. That was when I was a kid. I always just assumed he was better.
Yeah.
He
was fine.
He never had a full starting season with single-digit interceptions. He's always just been a gunslinger.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so sweet.
It is kind of awesome.
Even now I'm looking at his numbers. 4 games, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, 7 picks, under 60% completion percentage. Sweet. That's awesome.
It's so wild, man.
But 47% success rate. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Or it's not bad. It's not bad.
They get it done.
Actually, I don't really know where that ranks among success rate. Maybe I'm totally off base, but I feel like that's pretty good. I don't know. Basically, what that's telling me is he again, the explosives. Sometimes maybe he's not completing. Super. He's not throwing a bunch of screens. That's fine. That's probably all I have on that.
Yeah, I think you're kind of spot on. The Browns could win any given game in the playoffs,
but them going on a streak without the injuries and the Flacco interceptions catching up to him, probably unlikely. But it'll be fun to watch.
The thing that is killing them, the thing that will ultimately, I think, come to bite them, more so than Flacco, is just the injuries.
The injuries. If they had a solid running game and they could if they had the running game that they should have, I'll say, it'd be a lot different. It'd be a lot different. Chubb, it stinks.
If they had Delpit, if they had, I'm trying to think who else is out, but I'm just like, I can't think of like off the top of my head. They're just missing a lot of guys that they really would like to have. Conklin, which Conklin's always hurt. DeJuan Jones is out. Delpit.
God, that's what I'm talking about. And it's like tackle goes down. DeJuan Jones comes in, 4th round pick, I think.
Pretty good.
And he was like pretty good. And then he goes down. It's like, dude, you hit on like a 4th round rookie tackle. As a guy who seriously was not like a ridiculous liability, which you would expect any day 3 rookie to be, and that guy goes down too. It's just some tough breaks, man. So
yeah, and Jed Wills is out too. So it's Garon Christian and James Hudson at tackle.
Yeah,
it's rough.
But we'll see.
It's real rough. But yeah, we'll see if they can pull things together. Maybe go on a run. I wouldn't hate it. The only thing I would love if they do get a home playoff game, I'm going. No questions asked. No questions asked.
Oh, yeah.
But
all that being said, I think it's about that time we get into the Stay Hot Locks presented by Prize Picks, of course.
I know everyone's wondering, how are you going to do the Prize Picks how are you going to do the Stay Hot Locks without Theo here? Well, he actually sent us He sent us a
list. Yeah, Theo sent us a list of all of his picks in order. So we're going to do it like that. I'm assuming you guys know how the Stay Hot Locks work at this point. We basically pick a certain number of games. We have to get them all right. Each game's worth 1 point. We draft them, so 2 players can't pick the same guy. I think I'm down 1 point to you right now.
I think you might be right.
And Theo is way out of it, so he's going to have to pick like 17. So
yeah. So the current standings, Matt was at 14 points. Last week he picked the Eagles and the Broncos. Eagles won, Broncos lost to the Patriots. I mean, who could have seen that coming? Theo with 6 points picked the Packers, the Chiefs, and the Saints. The Saints was a challenge pick to my pick for the Rams. And I had 13. I picked the Bills and the Rams. Both those teams won. So I'm sitting at 15. Matt, you're right. I have a 1 point lead. So I guess I will go ahead and go first then. And, let's see what's on the docket here. I could take the Eagles over the Cardinals. I could take the Niners over the Commanders. The Rams. That might be what I do. The Niners get right this week against Washington. I'll take that.
Does that make it my pick next?
If you want it to be.
I do want it to be.
All right.
And I will take the Bills over the Patriots. I'm going to bet against the Patriots again. The Bills are hot. I think that's the biggest spread available. I could be wrong. Yeah, it's a 13-point spread. So I'm going to take that. I usually just pick off the spreads, to be completely honest with you.
It's usually
and that'll make it Theo's turn. Who are the two teams that he has listed as his next two to pick?
It would be Eagles, Rams.
Eagles, Rams.
All right.
Okay, so that brings it back.
Rams.
So he has Eagles, Rams. That brings it back to me. I'm going to take Jaguars over the Panthers.
Yep.
6.5-point spread. Pretty good. The Jaguars are kind of a funky team, and I guess the Panthers were competent last week, but I don't really believe in them. And I guess this is just me maybe hedging my emotional bet. I'd still like to see the Panthers not give up the number one. Not that it's going to happen. I think they need to win their next two games. But
here's an interesting question. Bears don't get the number one pick. What do they do?
What do you mean? Like they get the two?
We'll say three.
They go Marvin Harrison Jr. and they keep Fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two, you think they take just the next, whoever's next, like if
that's what I would do.
You take Williams.
That's what I would do, because I think both May and Williams are great prospects. But yeah, they would take Marvin Harrison Jr. and they wouldn't think twice about it.
Hey. I don't know. I mean, they have two. They could trade up.
They could.
If they really felt like they wanted those guys. I don't know. But I kind of agree with, if they had three, I'd probably go like Marvin and then like try and get Chop or Verse.
Or any of those tackles. There's a lot of guys to get. Very strong top 15 in this draft, I think. But that brings it back to you. I have Jaguars and Bills, and I'm out, and I'm not going to pick a third team.
I don't know if I like any of these. I might. I might be out too. Actually,
it's a tough week.
This is a risky pick. Maybe I just stick with the Niners, and my thought is maybe I pick the Browns over the Jets.
You could.
I could, but the Jets defense is legit. It's just their offense is really bad.
Against that Browns defense, it's probably going to be pretty tough.
I'll pick the Browns. I'll lock the Browns, and then I'll be out. So then, Theo, you get the Titans, the Vikings, the Seahawks. Hold on, I got to write this down. Titans.
Pick the Titans over the
Vikings, Seahawks,
and
Colts, Bucks. Wow.
So what is that? 8 teams, 6 teams, 7 teams?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7.
7.
He's got 7.
He needs a little bit of a comeback. I think he's down about 11 points right now. So
yeah, he's down pretty bad. So stay hot. Week 17 locks. Matt with 14 picking the Bills and the Jags. Theo with 6 points is picking the Eagles, the Rams, the Titans, the Vikings, the Seahawks, the Colts, and the Bucks. And then I'm sitting here with 15 points with the 49ers and the Browns. And just a reminder, we won't do playoffs.
Just regular season.
Just regular season. Theo won the first iteration.
Yeah, and then you won, and then I haven't won yet.
I won last year.
After having a
Matt
lead,
is due.
When I blow it, you can tweet at me and call me a dummy.
You're due. I feel like the Browns are going to blow it, and you'll take the lead back.
One of the strongest forces in sports being due.
Well, Myles Garrett was due.
That's true.
He's going to have 8 sacks in these last 2 weeks. That's what's going to... Actually, this is a great game for him to get a lot of sacks.
It would be.
This would be. But I think that pretty much wraps things up for us.
It does.
Matt, I know the Panthers lost, but I would like to congratulate you on a pretty good
on a Bryce Young solid performance. Yeah, he did. He did look solid. I don't mean to not bring it up. I just don't want to talk about the wildly uninteresting Panthers right now. They're not even like cool bad anymore. They just suck and they're boring and they don't have their picks or whatever. But yeah, Bryce did play better. He had a really good throw to a Chark to tie it up.
Yeah,
that impressed me, and I want to see him get some real receivers. But that's all I have about them.
Hey, one can dream, right? Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Hopefully Theo gets better from his food poisoning. We will see you all in the new year. But until then, thank you all for tuning in once again. We will catch you on the Flippity Flop.